JOAO Neves is not at Arsenal. He's young. He's a player that we've been linked to from Benfica. Now, we are not experts on JOAO Neves at all yet. If we get closer to signing him and stuff, do more analysis on him. So, do you think JOAO Neves could be the player? I've also noticed that he's played on the right side a few times. He's played in the midfield. I think I heard from Benfica fans saying that he's a very good hold of the ball, like in midfield. They can control position in midfield, doesn't lose the ball too many times. And as I said, he can play on the right wing, but he's still very young. So do you think that young player could be the one to come and start for us? Or would you be willing to make Jorginho the starter with Rice and then you bring JOAO Neves from the bench? Or do you feel like JOAO Neves would be a player as the second midfielder? Like you sign a Bruno Guimaraes and you also sign Neves. How do you feel about that?
My perspective on on JOAO Neves is, for me at the moment, I'm a big fan of Pedri, and it's such a pity that JOAO Neves is not Spanish, because he was meant to be Spanish. He's got to be Spanish. He's the smartest and he's the most quality midfielder under the age of 19 right now in Europe. Any club that gets him has a lottery for the next 20 years. 15 to 20 years. He is such a quality kid. He's such a quality player. Like, we've talked about Kobe Mainu, and people have given him his flowers. He deserves his flowers. JOAO Neves is one of those players that, you cannot believe he's 19 when you look at him. You cannot believe that he's 18, 19. When you look at him play, he's such a mature player. Like the way he picks up the ball, the way he, distributes it. Of course, I've not seen it a lot. Seen him a lot.
They said he has the bravery and the composure in midfield.
And the composure. I've looked at his numbers and I've compared him to the top 5 defensive midfielders in Europe on FBref. The only 2 players that are having more tackles and are having more touches than him are players in the championship who have played a ridiculous number of games. I think one is at Coventry and the other is at, I think, Ipswich. He's insane. Now, the Arsenal project at the moment is in a position where we might not afford to give him the time he deserves. He's a young player. He's going to come to the Premier League and it's going to rough him up, right? So I think his better place would be Barcelona, a system that has that kind of education. But if he came in at Arsenal, within 2 years, Arsenal would have the best defensive midfielder in the world, because Rodri is coming down. We will see him come down. Arsenal would have the best defensive midfielder in the world with JOAO Neves. He's a smart kid. But I wouldn't really want to trouble him with a price tag of around 70 to 80 million. Then he comes in alongside in a team where you're looking to go 94 points, 95 points. I think it would be heavy on him. It would really be heavy on him. However, if we cannot get Bruno Guimaraes, we should get JOAO Neves. Because with Guimaraes, you have an all-round midfielder. You have a player that can do everything. With JOAO Neves, you have a specialized defensive midfielder. He doesn't do anything. Yes, he's playing in a dominant team like Benfica, so he will play kind of 8. He'll play kind of 10. But he's a specialized defensive midfielder. His qualities are absolutely insane. So if Arsenal believe in him, and if the scouting has done a good job, I would actually go for him. I would really go for him. With Jorginho still there, I know Jorginho can take us through as many games as possible. And in games where we need a bit of athleticism, in games where we need a little bit of that energy and legs, I would combine Rice and JOAO Neves, and I would still get a very, very good product. Yes, he's naive, a little bit young. He's gonna commit those mistakes that we have seen from these Arsenal players 2 years ago. When they were still a little bit younger. But I wouldn't want any other team to take him. I really never want any other team to take him. Like, he's he's so good for his age. I don't remember myself being sold onto a young player like that. I mean, they've talked about Rashford, they've talked about Saka, Martinelli, and yeah, they've been good. But for me, this boy and Pedri, right, are the youngest players I've seen play football with my eyes. And I'm like, even if it's just YouTube compilations, this boy is different.
So if we sold Partey and they brought in JOAO Neves as the replacement, one midfielder out, one midfielder in, you'd be happy with that? You'd Jorginho some games, Neves some games.
If we fail to get any other, if we fail to get Guimaraes, if we fail to get maybe Kimmich is also available.
Just one midfielder out, one midfielder in. Would you be able to be happy with that, or you'd be like, I still feel like we're missing another one?
I would be happy with that. I would be happy with that. Yeah, he's young, and I still have my problems with young players. But for me, with the availability of Declan Rice, and you know that number 6 role at Arsenal is more of technical rather than like you see what other defensive midfielders do, maybe like
combat, like fighting in the middle, tackles, fighting.
It's more technical. It's about positioning. It's about when can you receive the ball, when can you release the ball, when do you drive, when do you don't drive. I think Mikel talked about his defenders, and he said, I don't want my defenders to drive the ball. And you see Partey makes mini drives, like, and Rice makes the long drives, because Rice is in the final third and Partey is just crossing the center line. So he makes mini drives and he passes. I think JOAO Neves has got the technical ability for me as a person to come into this side and give you 60% of what Partey gives you. In games against Burnley, Southampton, and the rest. I even think he can do even much better because he's got the work ethic as a young lad. It's about the coaching. If we can coach it into him and ask him to deliver right now, I would be happy with him. I would really be happy with him.
I cannot wait to see what Arteta and they do for that position this transfer window. Personally, if Partey was staying and Neves came in, I'd be happy with that. If Partey went out and Neves came in and just that was the only business we did in midfield, I'd still be a little bit wide. But we'll cover Bruno Guimaraes on tomorrow's video on Cause's channel. We'll talk more about Bruno Guimaraes, so make sure to check this one out as always.
Also, I think that if Arsenal could close their eyes and snatch Joshua Kimmich, that would be a statement signing. That would
I think that would be great. That's another midfielder who can also play as a right back as well. And I mean, he has a lot of experience. I feel like I watched Kimmich starting to play football because I remember him around 2015 there when he was a kid. I was like, who's this guy?
But
me too. Developed. So, but that midfield position will be very important.
I'm surprised that he's like 28, 29. I was like, when did he become 28, 29?
Yeah, and it feels like we've been watching him for like 10 years, but you still expect him like to be young. You always wonder why he's old and stuff. But yeah, our midfield position this transfer window will be interesting. Obviously, on top of that, the likes of El Neni have left. So in terms of numbers, we don't have too many players in that midfield. But as I said again on yesterday's video, I feel like if worse comes to worse, if things completely go wrong and you don't have players to play there, you still have other options who can play there. Rice can play there. You can even try Ben White there if you want. You can try Timber there if you want, but that's assuming like 3 or 4 midfielders get injured. So that will be interesting. Next up, let's talk about, that's the midfield situation. Let's talk about OLISE. Now, OLISE, I know people will ask about JOAO Neves in terms of fee, 45 million in terms of market value. How much would you pay for him before you go to OLISE?
I think JOAO Neves is 70 to 80 million. It's whoever gets him, 70 to 80 million, not less than that.
So his market value on transfer market is 45 million euros, but you'll have to pay much more money than that. And listen, there's midfielders like Maino and I think it's Miley at Newcastle. They've done well in those midfield positions, right? And then obviously if you have the experience of Rice and Jorginho, that can help. So Michael OLISE now. I've always said Michael OLISE is very, very good. He's a very good player. The only thing I can say is the last couple of months injuries, I'm a bit worried about those. But in terms of quality, it's very good. I mean, he scores a goal, you check Twitter, listen, better than Saka, I'm used to that. It always happens. And this is what Darren of the Mirror reported the other day. Man United, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Liverpool want Olise with United. And the Ghana said to have the edge as a versatile attacker is keen to play Champions League football. So I guess they meant Liverpool. So Liverpool and Arsenal would have the edge if he wants to play Champions League football. But I feel like Olise is the kind of something that would only happen if that was a priority. If you're going to the summer transfer window with a striker already signed last summer and a midfielder already signed, and you only needed a left back and a winger, you can go for Olise. But I don't think that would be that wouldn't be a priority. So would you be willing to make it a priority if he became available for like 60 million? Would you be like, okay, listen, forget about the left back and an extra midfielder. We have a wingers available for 60 million that is going to help Saka. Let's go for him.
I'm going to make a prediction at the end of the Olise discussion. I don't want to spoil the party for the people. I think Michael Olise this summer, has a release clause of around 65 million euros. Or 65 million euros, if I'm right. And I am told that a couple of clubs are trying to talk to his entourage to try and scoop it. Arsenal, obviously, among the clubs that are interested in Michael Olise. Whether we are going to pay the release clause, it remains to be seen. Now, for me, for 60 million, Michael Olise is a must-buy. I think Arsenal are very known for doing smart business, but then we are also known for missing out on smart business, like Lucas Paqueta. That is one. Yes, he might serve the ban, but that is one smart business we failed to do. Gimaresh, that's another one. Kudus, that's another one. We've also missed out on our on some of the deals that we would look back on and say, oh, that was really, really a good deal, right? So I think Olise is a must buy for a club like Arsenal, because what we are looking to do, we are looking to raise that quality. Imagine you draw Real Madrid in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. 60 minutes in, they take off Kylian Mbappe and they bring on Rodrigo. Is there a decline really in quality on the flanks? No. There's no quality. Actually, it means that they have introduced a more clutch player who scores big goals in big games on the European stage in Rodrigo. So imagine, I think that is what Arsenal have to look at. And you talked about it, that what Arsenal now need to do is to get used to the fact that you can have a 70 million asset on the bench. You can have a 100 million asset on the bench, because that is the level that we want to get to in order to dominate the Premier League, in order to dominate UEFA Champions League. That's what we've got to do. So for me, Michael Olise is a no-brainer to any team in the Premier League. It is a no-brainer. Like, that level of quality, like, he's played around 20 games or even less, and he's had 16 goal contributions. Like, 16 goal contributions in 19 games. Who does that? Like, we praise Saka for 16 goals. This guy has scored 10 in 19. That is absolute quality. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Whether even if it's not priority, Arsenal should just go in a window, right? And we are like, we check on Olise. The players you check on, is Olise available this summer? 50 to 60 million. You bring him in, because Olise is one of the players that you can play him for 2 seasons, and if he feels I can't get ahead of Saka, I want to be my own king, you're going to sell him for 80 million after 2 years. So it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. I'm not sure whether he can play on the left wing. I'm not sure. I don't. No. Yeah, I've seen him more on the right wing. He would provide the quality competition we've been asking for Bukayo Saka.
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right, man. Like, Man City are able to take off a Foden and bring in a Doku, Madrid, take off Mbappe and bring in, Rodrigo, as you said. Imagine Saka is playing against a fullback, let's say Luke Shaw, and then Saka dominates him for 60 minutes, and Shaw is tired, Saka is tired. You take off Saka, you bring in Olise.
Have you seen what Pep has been doing this season He takes off Kevin De Bruyne. Bernardo Silva pushes in midfield, and it brings on Jeremy Doku.
And he does that. I've seen him do like 5-6 times, especially in the recent games. Also in the last day, I think.
Doku has impacted in each of the games that he has come on in his last 6 games.
Yeah, that pace and that directness, that one has not become old. I know that's something that used to be there back in the day, but that is something that has never become old. If you just have direct players with pace, like Doku and Martinelli and those guys, it can work. The players with tiredness, and these days there's like 3-4 teams, the likes of Aston Villa and Tottenham, playing with the high line and all that. You can absolutely dominate that. So Olise for 60 million, if he became available, absolutely right. I would take him as well. Now, the other worry is, I would be very worried if he ended up joining like a Man United or like a Chelsea. I'm like, oh, they have Palmer and Olise. That definitely be a worry. So you want to beat our competitor right now. For me, I said last season, Man City is the only team that can finish above us. I'm still going to say the same thing next season. I feel like Man City is our competition, and Liverpool to some extent. I don't know how their manager is going to do, but Man City is our main competition. So if you can have Olise coming off the bench, for Saka, however it's going to be, you can even afford to rest Saka for a couple of games, pressure taken away from Saka. You can even change it a bit. You can have Olise playing the Odegaard role for 25 minutes, and then you have Saka on the right side, just whichever you're going to do it. Absolutely fantastic. So Olise, if he became available for 60 million, as you said, the release clause, I think he'd be very, very good. But I don't think he would be. I don't think he's our priority, unfortunately. So
I am very intrigued to see what Mikel Arteta and Edu want to do when it comes to those two positions, winger and striker. Do they want to combine it? Do they want to bring in someone like Isak, because Isak has got the ability to do both, or do they want to do it in a separate way? If one doesn't work, probably the other one works. So maybe a Cisco.
Could they want to do with the players that we have? Play Jesus on the right wing, play Martinelli on the left wing. Could be that as well.
And I also think that is going to be a major factor, because we've talked about a winger for 3 summers now. Yeah, we've talked about
and
a new
2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was saying, let's get like a Musa Diaby, you can play a wing and sometimes forward. But now things have changed. You want like a forward and someone to help out Saka. But they could say Jesus is the guy next season to help out Saka on that wing. And you've said Martinelli has been playing on the right side a few times. Maybe that could be the thing. But I don't know, man. Like, this is the toughest transfer window to predict, I think, over the last 3 years. What you've done over the last 3 years, this is difficult.